just seeing people coming and watching theater just proved to me how much it's needed. Just this form of art, and that like Palestinians are civilized, between quotes, and they love theater and they want to go and they want to connect and hear and see themselves. It was very inspiring, kind of like restored my faith in what I'm doing. We wanted to portray a side of the Palestinians that is not on the news, that is not about victimhood. To come and watch a play while you're being bombed, like that's so absurd. But it happened.
Welcome to the StageLink podcast, your access and connection to the live performing arts. In this podcast, you'll hear from some of the industry's most inspiring people from around the globe who create magic on stage and backstage. Our guests share their knowledge, passion, and the real stories of how a show comes together. We hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the StageLink podcast. My name is Anna Robb, and today we're talking with Emile Saba. Emile is a Palestinian theatre director and actor born in September 1989 in Ramallah, originally from Jaffa. He's the artistic director of Ashtar Theatre, where he began his theatrical training before earning an MFA in stage performance from the University of Connecticut. Saba has worked extensively across Palestinian and international productions as an actor, director, and festival manager, co-organising 6 editions of the Ashtar Theatre International Youth Festival. His artistic style often explores themes through magical realism. His notable acting roles include 2077 Who Wants to Survive at Bridgeworks Theatre, which toured several countries and won the jury award at the 2023 Cairo International Monodrama Festival. Additional credits include First Class, By the Sea, Between Heaven and Earth, and The Logic of Birds. Directorial works include Cosmos, Free Play, Love on the Shelf, People by the Sea, and Taming of the Shrew. His latest work, Guernica Gaza, premiered in Ramallah in July of 2023. Emile, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the introduction, Anna.
Lovely. So tell us a little bit about Ashtar Theatre and what you do there.
Yeah. Ashtar Theatre was established in 1991. It started in Jerusalem and then it moved to Ramallah as the kind of first theater school for children and youth. And for 35 years, it evolved into the center of theater of the oppressed, theater and techniques in the Middle East. And it has been a pioneering organization in creating original works that are political and they push the envelope. And it has this avant-garde kind of fringe style. And it's very involved in the community for years. Theater of the oppressed and forum theater, social theater was and still is a big pillar in Ashtar's mission, going to villages and training locally and internationally this technique that it was famous for. And I graduated from Ashtar. I studied here when I was a kid. And then before I went to university, I graduated with a diploma, which we give till now, a diploma in theater for 4 years. And now I'm the artistic director of the theater, and I'm kind of like building on the legacy that has been established already. And we're focusing now on psychosocial work in honorable schools with organizations, with community groups from all ages and backgrounds. This is a big thing for us now, especially with what's happening in the country and around the world. And we're still creating original works and touring internationally also, and of course, locally with different hardships, of course. And our student program is still strong and going. We have a new youth production at the end of August with our 3rd year students. And we're opening the doors for a new group this year in September. And yeah, this is in a nutshell. And also we are now Ashtar is kind of taking a huge step into establishing an academy that combines theater with circus.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, we are. It's a dream that Iman, the founder of the theater, had for many years, and finally, it's happening. We're moving from Ramallah to a nearby village called Birzeit, near the Palestinian circus. They have a big tent there, and they have their institution there. So we're partnering together, and it's going to be a 2-year diploma that teaches theater and circus and graduating trainers and artists. And it will be a place where we can have residencies and have kind of expanding beyond theater too. But this is like taking steps now. Hopefully in a year we'll be there.
What a wonderful mission. That's fantastic. And how does Ashtar get funded? Is it through the tickets or is it through people who are paying for the school? Is there government funding? How does it work over there?
I wish. None of these.
None of the above.
Yep. Ashtar is an NGO. And for all the past years, it was going through the same channels as any NGO here, that we fund through international organizations. And of course, we are big on BDS, cultural boycotting. And there was a period where I think still that there were like conditional funding, if you heard about it, where they force Palestinian institutions to sign like a non-terrorist agreement that we always refuse. So that always put us in a very tight position, because government doesn't give money to culture, and the channels are very limited. But since the genocidal war on Gaza in 2023, as part of a bigger network, which is the Palestinian Performing Network, we took a stand, and Ashtar was the first to kind of say no to all the complicit countries that participated and still participating in the genocide until they change their positions and take action. So that kind of made us think and rethink our position and what can we do and how can we go about it, because we don't want to close. And we have programs and we have employees and we have students, and we see the need for us staying. So we went into the route of independent funding, global giving, putting our project there. The psychosocial interventions with UNRWA played a big part in kind of sustaining us. Also, the Gaza monologues, one of our main branding projects. Unfortunately, it comes up every time there's a war on Gaza, and we spread it out to the whole world to take the monologues and produce them and make events, and it has been used in so many countries, and it was translated in so many languages that people, through events, fundraisers, using the monologues and whatever tickets they would sell, they will support our programs here. So 2 channels were our main kind of channels during last year, especially. And there are still, of course, funders and organizations that are not complicit and actually care about culture and art. So we still use the traditional funding, but it's hard. It's an everyday struggle. Yeah, mainly that. But it's about like also changing our mindset and our dependency. Because at the beginning of the war, I personally found that like all these organizations, these international organizations and governmental fundings from governments, they push all this narrative about gender and awareness and social problems in the Palestinian community. And they always gather information and data about the audience and about the impact. And for me and for other like cultural workers, we were under the impression, like in a subtext way, that this way Palestinians are proving to the world that we're humans, we're civilized, we care about these issues, la 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 la. But then at the end, this data did not benefit anyone. Like it did not show us in a human light or show us more human. or proved. Like we had expectations from these organizations to stand for us and be like, no, we've been working in the Palestinian community with these organizations for years and we should defend them, but it wasn't the case. So it kind of like shifted the thinking.
But it sounds like a huge challenge to keep moving. And I think how admirable of you to take that stance and also to, keep creating in those circumstances. What is it now that is, driving the work, and what is the sort of energy in the community given what's been going on in the region, and how is that driving the choices of your work and what you're doing there?
It wasn't an easy period at all, and still isn't. We lost hope, especially at the beginning of the genocide. We felt very helpless. We felt like we're not able to do anything. Even the role of theater is like, what is the role of theater here? Like, is it necessary? Is it the time for it? Are we living in La La Land and we want to do theater and people are starving? And you see it also in the funding, like it doesn't go to culture. It goes to the most urgent.
To aid and to, support that.
Yeah. So there was a period that we as a team took psychological help. And from there, we started like working kind of like, okay, but we know that the trauma is big and it keeps getting bigger. And we're not allowed as a nation to have any time to process this trauma and to release it. It's generational and it adds on in our everyday things. So our focus shifted into, okay, the need is for psychological and social intervention, for creating safe spaces for kids and for youth. Everyone needs it, but children are affected, even grown-ups, because we're just like on the news all the time. We're more affected. So we were like, this is our focus for the whole year. And we started like going to organizations and telling them like, you need this. We know that you need it. And everyone was like, yeah, we are in severe need, like to have a moment to talk and to even sometimes cry or share our experiences. Like we felt like as a society, we're like being torn apart. So we said, okay, we need to kind of put back the pieces together and create these spaces through theater. So we went to UNRWA schools, especially after all the cuts and the attacks on UNRWA, which doesn't make any sense. So we focused on them and youth organizations and like women's groups and youth, just creating these spaces to create and to kind of connect, because we felt that there is a huge need for this. And then artistically, also there's like a huge question that I always have of like, what do I want to say and what is needed and why, and does this change anything? Like all these like really existential questions about like, why am I doing theater? Like, does it matter? I get the training, I get the ventilation and all of that, but like to come and watch a play while you're being bombed, like that's so absurd. But it happened. Like we produced this play Guernica Gaza, and we collab. But it all comes like I'm just giving examples of like this like need to do something, because part of our work is also like an activist work in our community, in a cultural way, and in like awareness way, and critical thinking and all these things. So we collaborated with two great playwrights, Naomi Wallace and Ismail Khalidi, and they wrote this piece that inspired by Picasso's painting about Guernica and Gaza and this concept of human animals. And kind of like we wanted to portray a side of the Palestinians that is not on the news, that is not about victimhood. And I wanted to give some hope. So it's like a hopeful play in a very dark time about how we can sew back our pieces together and kind of like uniting, like this feeling of uniting nature and humans and animals together, because this war has been destroying everything. And it's philosophical, but poetic also, and it's direct in a way and magical in a way too. And people, like, we had a full house for a week every day, full house of
Wow.
people just coming and watching. And we interviewed them after, and it was a very positive feedback of people saying like, we couldn't cry, but now here we allowed ourselves to cry finally. We know that we're not in Gaza, but we felt that we're there. And it's so hard to make theater for Palestinians, especially about something that we're going through. So that was a big challenge of like, what do we say that we don't know? Or that kind of like inspires us or puts us in a place that we can like think or reflect. So it was a big challenge, but just seeing people coming and watching theater just proved to me how much it's needed. Just this form of art. And that like Palestinians are civilized, between quotes, and they love theater and they want to go and they want to connect and hear and see themselves. It was very inspiring, kind of like restored my faith in what I'm doing.
Well, I think restored your faith, restored other people's faith. I think it's something and interesting because it's kind of still in there, right? And to try and create something in the midst of that is pretty chaotic. Is the play, is it like it's a play, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And is it something that is also written down in English? So like, can people read it? Can people find it? Yeah. Is it available for people to see?
It's not available yet. It's written in English.
Okay.
And we translated it and adapted it into Arabic. Translated it, actually. The script was very important. It's recorded, like where we filmed it as a film, kind of like a stage film. And it will be available online for people to register and watch it, and kind of like a way to contribute also to the theater. But I can share the script with you if you'd like.
Please. And sorry, and it's not online yet though, right? The show. Okay. Because I'd love to put the link in our podcast link if we do have it soon. If you do have it soon.
Yeah, but we can put like our Ashtar, our Instagram link. Yeah. Because we will be posting about it there.
Mm-hmm. Great. No, that's amazing. How many people were in the show? Like just in terms of like the meat and potatoes of the show.
I'll tell you about it. Okay, so 5 actors, and they're like the whole team. There's me as a director. I have an assistant director, Hadil Khaled, who's my colleague. And the play uses live video art and video mapping with the live acting. So there's like 5 actors on stage, and these characters, they are in Gaza, but they don't see each other. They don't hear each other, but they are in the same space. And each one of them represents an idea or a character out of flesh. There is a beekeeper who's the last beekeeper in Gaza, and he's trying to save his last hive. And he talks about community, and he talks about revolution through the bees. And there is a character of a surfer. He's a father who lost his daughter in the previous war. And he wants to keep her memory alive. So he keeps recording her story and talking about her by the beach. And the more he talks, his daughter becomes alive and becomes real. And she is like a superhero who surfs waves. But instead of waves, she surfs the rubble. And she's always like kind of surprised how her surfboard like doesn't break and doesn't fall. And she's kind of like wanting to save the kids. in Gaza. And through her, we see what's happening to Gaza, kind of like the blowing up of kids and animals together. And the other two characters are brothers. And one of them, he discovered something about the connection between animals and humans. And he started like putting together animal pieces to humans, or animals to animals, like a cat without a leg. He'll find like a duck's leg and he put it together. And he found out that pieces, if they are connecting, they grow and they become stronger. And his brother is in the resistance. And they have this kind of like debate about what kind of resistance and which is stronger. This kind of like putting these pieces back together, or the armed resistance. But also the whole play is talking about human animals, and kind of like we are taking on this concept and kind of like, okay, we're human animals. What does it mean? How can it be a positive thing, maybe? And slowly in the play, they kind of connect and they kind of hear each other. And there is this visuals, abstract kind of integration with the actors that adds like a different perspective to the play.
Oh, that's so good. And you directed it, but also like your path into directing, you said you were part of the Ashtar Theatre and then you went over to Connecticut to study. Was that what happened? You did a degree there? Why did you choose the degree in Connecticut?
I didn't choose it. I didn't choose it. I was young and I was like thinking about like, if I want to go study acting, I want to go to London.
Okay.
I want to go to the UK, and that's where I'm getting the best theater education. But then I was working at Ashtar and I was working with the youth program. I was like directing, I remember Alice in Wonderland. And I have a friend, he's a theater professor in Connecticut. And he told me about it. He was like, the master's program is opening this summer and it's a 3-year program in Connecticut. And I was like, Connecticut? I don't want to go to Connecticut. And I applied. I was like, okay, I'll just go do it. I submitted my auditions and I didn't think about it. And then I got accepted. And in a few months, I just like wrapped everything and I went. And I was like 24, I think. And I'm really happy that I went. I went to UConn, University of Connecticut, and they have an amazing drama department and a theater program, especially the master's program. And it's 3 years. It wasn't like 9 months or a year, like in London now, okay, mostly, or 2 years. It was 3 years program, and it's very diverse. We did a lot of different kind of styles in theater and different genres. And then I felt like I needed kind of a certificate. I needed an education in this craft if I want to continue it. Because I felt like a fraud before. I was like, I need to know more. I need to need confirmation. So yeah, I went and then I came back to Palestine.
And having been exposed to sort of that kind of training and that kind of, I guess, theatrical education, what are the sort of some of the similarities or differences between, how theatre is made in the West versus where you are?
It's very different. First, when I was there, I kind of gained more confidence right away that the education that I got at Ashtar was very helpful and kind of like I knew things that others didn't know, especially if they don't come from a theater background. So I was very proud of and I studied English literature at the university. So I was like very familiar and in love with like Shakespeare and like Greek mythology and Greek plays. And so I had that kind of background. Our theater here is more kind of like a physical theater. Like it doesn't really focuses a lot on realism. Well, that was like my experience. But even now, there's like a lot of like absurd, like theater of the absurd, these kind of like plays that the body like talks and the actors are very kind of in it and they sweat. But the American theater is very different. Like they go by the book most of the time. This play is done this way, this style. So we do it every time this way, this style. Like the concept changes, the costumes change, but the style is the style. And you do it for a purpose because you want to do this like Jane Austen style. If we do it in Palestine, the same play, we'll do it in different ways. Like we don't do it in that way, in a specific way. Also, I found out that you can't play any character you want. You have to kind of ethnically be the character, or kind of like sexually, or, you know, like you have to be similar to the character in a way. Although I kept playing Jewish characters. Okay.
They're like, you look, yeah, that'll be for you.
Yeah, yeah. But I did like my showcase monologue. I did Shylock from Merchant of Venice, and the monologue he talks about like my blood is your blood, and I felt like it's very suitable for me as a Palestinian. And after the showcase, a lot of people came to me and they were like thanking me for speaking, for thinking that I'm Jewish, and I liked it.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. Okay, you don't know me, but I mean, like, okay, we're similar. Like, there's a similarity there, even for people to see, or because maybe they thought that I wouldn't do it if I'm not Jewish. I wouldn't take it to a different meaning. So, like, a lot of things like started like opening my eyes to, and like how they see us. Like here, I play foreigner characters. Like even TV shows, I'm like a British colonel or something. But there I was very Arab. I was too Arab for them. And in auditions, like with casting directors, I had a lot telling me that you can play the emotional terrorist that we relate to. Or you look like someone from Kashmir, but they wouldn't accept that I'm from the Middle East.
Wow.
So yeah, it's like a very unique experience, a bit limiting also. And that's why I came back. Yeah, I was like, I don't want to keep auditioning for like small roles to play the Arab or the terrorist, or that will not take me anywhere.
It's interesting that you say that though, because, you know, like I think from what you've just described to me with Ashtar Theatre and the fact that your ethos seems to be that theatre, it has a purpose and there's an ethos in terms of making comment on society and culture and what's happening in and of itself, which I think is actually really important. That's why the arts exist, right? And I think that, you know, dialing it in an art space wherever else that might be happening is not necessarily serving a community or a culture, unless the arts is there to provoke, right? So
that's the other point, like the purpose of theater, exactly. And I grew up believing, and I still believe in this, like, why am I doing this? Not to myself only. Maybe myself comes second in this, because we're as artists, we're selfish also. We want to do something artistic for the sake of art, but nothing is just for the sake of art. Everything has a meaning, a purpose to evoke or to make you feel great or sad, or like all these emotions. And that also was like a big struggle for me with the American theater, that like even the political plays for me, they were like, I'm like, okay, we're not really touching on anything. And I envy them, because sometimes you just need to just do a Jane Austen.
Yeah.
You know,
just have a
and
nice,
like,
easy show. Let's not rock the boat.
And I was in Germany in May, in May and in April, acting in a production, and I really got confronted with this purpose and like what is the role of theater and politically, because I was like writing my monologues and they're all political, and I'm like forcing myself to talk about myself, and I couldn't just take myself away from what's happening, from what I feel. And I saw other people like being able to just talk about themselves and with no guilt, with no pressure, and just like it's theater. I'm channeling an emotion or a state or a concept. But for me, yeah, it's just like, what is the purpose? What am I saying? How is this affecting people? What do I want from them? It puts a lot of criteria, you know, but I think it's good. It's needed.
Yeah, and I think I had the fortunate experience of working with Franco Dragone, whose work when he was a young man was driven by putting theatre together to comment on social situations in Belgium at the time, and he even used people that weren't actors. And that foundational practice, I worked with him much later in his life, but there was such I guess I would say a rebelliousness in his approach to making theatre that always existed ever since, no matter, he did big shows in Vegas and he did shows over here in China. And there was always such a underlying rebelliousness in his creation, which I found quite enticing and exciting because you just never know where you'd end up. And I like that.
Wow, yeah. I love this.
So in terms of the future for Ashtar, so you're going to join with the Palestinian circus and then expand in terms of a curriculum there. And in terms of your sort of upcoming works and the future for you in terms of directorial stuff, what's next for you after Guernica Gaza?
Like for now and for next year, I'm working on taking Guernica Gaza to festivals. We'll be participating in a festival next year in Norway, but it's a big cast, so it's kind of like it moves slower. And I am writing now with a Palestinian American writer. His name is Omar Hantash. He's based in Kuwait. We're writing a new play that I want to direct. And it's in English, and it is directed to international audience. Out like 4 Palestinians living in the US, dealing with everything's happening in Palestine and in the US and the universities and the demonstrations and the difference in the identity between Palestinians and someone from the West Bank, someone from Gaza, someone from 48, someone from the diaspora. So that's a goal. My vision for it is to direct it with a theater outside of Palestine. So it really reaches and speaks to the audience intended to. And I'm writing also a play with another director, writer, like a kind of like a solo. I want to make a monodrama, something that is political. I had this 2077, which was also a one-man show, but we talk about the future and AI, and it's kind of like a Blade Runner, Matrix kind of inspired show. And now I don't feel that it fits. It fits internationally, but it also, the expectations from us are really huge as Palestinian like artists. It's kind of like, we need this kind of topic, or we need Palestine as Palestine. But of course, I don't do that. But I'm trying to think about something that kind of moves the conversation also forward and highlights maybe a Palestinian character or role model or someone that kind of participated in the whole cause. So it's in the work. Hopefully, like next year, maybe I'll start rehearsals.
I love that. You've got lots on your plate, Emile. So thank you so much for spending some time on the StageLink podcast. I'm really inspired by the work you do and, what you're doing over there with the youth theatre and, merging with the circus. And I wish you the best for the next few years and the projects that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for inviting me and for your questions. It was really a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the StageLink podcast. StageLink is an online platform that gives you access and connection to the live performing arts. As a guest, you can read about live performing arts from across the globe and gain insights from performers and artists on stage and all the amazing people who work behind the curtain. If you are an industry professional, StageLink Pro offers jobs, networks, and career support tools, and you can build your own professional profile on the site. As a StageLink podcast listener, you are eligible for 20% off your StageLink Pro membership. Visit us at stagelink.com and when joining, use the code SLPodcast. StageLink, that's StagelYnc.com.